I'm Patricia Seary from the ESL Department, and I work with Ellen and Jim from the ESL Department as well. And we worked on a fit, so we were actually developing a product based on research that we'd done earlier through a FIG.
The research was, we asked students from the ESL department who had done ESL courses and then gone to 1A what they found difficult about their 1A classes, and many of them mentioned that they had trouble with cultural references. Or is that on the next slide?
That's the next slide. That's okay. So what we developed was a question and answer style list of commonly known information, what we consider to be commonly known information related to the United States. So historical information, geographical information, cultural information, and we came up with a list of 120 questions and answers. And our plan is to post the list for ESL students, and then next semester run a type of spelling bee type competition based on the list. Okay, so why did we decide to develop this product? Ellen sort of referred to an earlier FIG in 2010 on ESL readiness for 1A, and another which we did in 2011 on the thought processes or strategies ESL students use to assist them with reading. And one of the things that students said was there's often references in texts, cultural references in texts, sort of US cultural references in text, and they don't really get them. They feel that they've come here and they don't have a good background about US history, geography, or culture. And yeah.
And I looked a little bit online. You know, you can find K through 12 materials, but you really can't find materials that are written for a kind of community college audience on typical American history. And I couldn't find them.
So then we just put together a list of these 120 questions, and we had some on US history. For example, when did the colonial leaders sign the Declaration of Independence? Things on US geography, which is the largest state in the continental United States. The US Constitution, what is the Bill of Rights? You know, people might see that in reading and not kind of work out bill and rights and what is Constitution, etc. And we had questions on US arts and film.
Awesome, lead belly.
Well, lead belly.
I'm not American.
I like lead belly. That's why lead belly's there. And Jim said, "Why lead belly? Nobody knows who lead belly is." I said, "Well, it doesn't matter. The point is, they will look for lead belly thereafter, hopefully."
Oh yeah.
And, which was another problem with putting the questions together, like which questions to have, which is then U.S. fun facts or trivia, what American city is associated with the movie industry, U.S. holidays. Name the annual holiday that celebrates the workers of the United States. And Ellen had a situation in her class over Thanksgiving. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh, only that I taught the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and I said, somebody asked me a question. I said, oh, by the way, about Thanksgiving. I said, by the way, we're going to have a whole not trivia, but American culture quiz, like our last spelling bee that will cover this. They said, oh, does that sound good? I said, yeah. I said, well, let me give you some questions right now. So I just made some up about, well, why do you think people have turkey? You know, they sound like elementary school questions, I know. Who came here first? What century did the first Europeans come here? 19th century? No? Let's get so they really didn't know it. Some of them didn't know Columbus. I was surprised. The only people who knew about Columbus, I know he's controversial, but most, I would venture to say that your typical American has heard of Columbus. Mm-hmm. And that every teacher would assume that everybody in the class knows who Columbus was. Only 3 students in my class knew who Columbus was, and they happened to be from the Western Hemisphere. Nobody from the Middle East, none of those people had ever heard of Columbus. So it just to me is a lesson of what you think is so basic. Our students don't know.
Discovering Christopher Columbus.
And then I even got a thank you note. Thank you, I went to a Thanksgiving dinner and I knew about Thanksgiving. So the students do they do, it seems silly, but they do want to know this information.
They
Right now, we don't have a clue.
need American culture. If they're learning the language,
We don't have
I
a
always
course.
tell them that they need to know something about the culture. And the example I give is, you have dinner with some Americans and they say, I saw the Bushes on TV. Every time I see them, I have to laugh. And they think, "Bush." They go home and they look in the dictionary, bush, a small tree. So you have, that's why I think this is important.
I know.
And then the last section,
sorry.
the last section was other things like what do we call the lowest hourly rate of pay allowed by law, like the minimum wage, and what is jury duty? You know, students don't often know about that. And then, as Ellen mentioned earlier, we didn't really find any research or course based on this. Some of our information came from citizenship courses.
Yeah, there are books, of course, on citizenship, and there's a series for high school called American Encounters that teaches people about the Constitution, but we haven't found much on the community college level.
Okay, so we've dealt with this. Generating the list was sort of trying to solve this problem, fill in some missing knowledge gaps. And then with evaluation, well, we haven't put the so-called competition together yet, but we plan to evaluate the event, and we will measure the success of the project with next month's culture contest, and the effectiveness. We'll do it as a workshop. ESL offers free lunchtime workshops to all our ESL students. And we'll base our evaluation on student turnout and response to evaluations, written and spoken responses to evaluations. And some of the questions, has the competition given you a better understanding of US culture, history, and geography? We're sort of hoping that they'll work together in teams, the students, in preparation for the contest. And then through that process, they'll talk about things. I mean, some of them will know certain information, and that they will somehow just get some kind of broad, albeit very superficial kind of idea of terminology and dates and etc. Has the competition had any secondary benefits in terms of vocabulary development, grammar development, speech development? Are there any social benefits for you meeting with other students? And have you explored any event further that you may have found kind of interesting?
Let Billy, they can.
Or we could do a survey, we could do this as a survey month too.
Yeah, we could do it as a survey month.
Oh, more.
And then, is there any specific piece of information that captured your attention? Would you like it to be an annual event? Are there any ways we can improve the event? And what other types of questions could we develop that you may like to contribute, that will help you as ESL students? And then future steps, we saw it as, we could look through, we sort of got this information randomly, like Jim and Ellen, sort of from our heads, sort of from books, kind of all over the place. So we could look through English 1A reading assignments to determine what cultural references are referred to there and then use those. Or we could use the project as a starting point for developing an ESL course on American culture.
That would be awesome, to have a class, like.
Yeah.
We have a lot of
Need it,
guest
though.
speakers.